Welcome back to B&B Movie Reviews. This week, we face our fear of the dark and find out who the real Argylle is.
We're also jamming with Bob Marley and get caught in the spider's web. Stay right there. B&B is coming up.
God, I love this book.
See, I was telling the truth.
Who's the weirdo now?
Not a real fan. Don't worry. I have it all under control.
I got everything under control.
Bryce Dallas Howard's Ellie is seeing double when Sam Rockwell, or Henry Cavill, tries to protect her from an ambush on the train in this spy thriller, Argylle.
Argylle.
Yes. So,
Argylle.
you know, yeah, I know. That's how I'm feeling about this
Here's my
movie.
question to you. Where are you in your Matthew Vaughn fandom?
You know what? Because it's interesting because we did our most anticipated movies, not recently, but the year prior, because I thought Argylle was coming out. And I had mentioned it, not in my top 10, but it was like right in my honorable mentions, because this was a movie I was really looking forward to. Because I do like Matthew Vaughn. You know, I didn't like the second Kingsman.
What about the third Kingsman?
The Kingsman was better, but still forgettable. I do think the first Kingsman and Kick-Ass are really good movies that I enjoy.
I feel like we are so far removed.
From that Matthew Vaughn?
No, from the Layer Cake and Stardust Matthew Vaughn. I miss that Matthew Vaughn.
I haven't seen Stardust.
Oh, it's good. It's good. And talk about a great Robert De Niro performance. We were talking about Robert De Niro the other week. That's a great Robert De Niro performance. You should check out Stardust, based on Neil Gaiman novel.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I miss that Matthew Vaughn. I feel like the further he's moved in his career, the further away he's moved away from me. Kick-Ass and The Kingsman, those two comic book adaptations, I thought were interesting, but never quite did it for me. I wasn't a big fan of his X-Men. And then we get this. And I don't know what's happening. Everyone feels so far removed from each other. The chemistry's not working between anybody.
It's interesting because, Bryce Dallas Howard, who I like as an actress. I
love Bryce Dallas Howard.
I mean, what she's doing behind the camera with Star Wars and The Mandalorian, I think she needs to do a lot more directing. But I love seeing her in front of the camera. But it feels like she's so miscast here.
I don't know if she's necessarily miscast. I think this is going to be a hard movie to talk about without spoiling, because, I mean, I guess we're spoiling that there is a twist.
There's multiple twists.
I think the first twist ruins the entire experience. If the movie remained the movie that it is in the first hour and 10 minutes. This movie's also so long. Why is this like 2.5 hours?
Way too long.
It's way too long. This should be an 80-minute movie. And if it was an 80-minute movie that stayed true to its first half, then I think Bryce Dallas Howard is perfect for this film.
I think so too. I think when we get to the back half of this movie, is that where it starts to kind of get a little bit too jumbled. And again, it's not Bryce Dallas Howard's fault.
No, absolutely not. No, it's Matthew Vaughn. And the casting of her against Sam Rockwell. Sam Rockwell I love, but they're not clicking in this movie.
No, they're not. And they're supposed to have really good chemistry when you find out more about the relationship.
Like narratively, plot-wise, demands that they have chemistry, but they actually don't.
No, they don't. And going back to Matthew Vaughn, you know what it is to me? I think, and I like the first Kingsman. I mean, I know you may be kind of...
I'm lukewarm on it.
But I think... Everybody fell in love with that church action sequence in that movie.
Yeah, and it broke Matthew Vaughn's brain.
Yeah, I think since that church sequence, he's just kind of gone off the rails.
The opening action sequence of this movie is awful looking. The cinematography and the wire work and the CG work,
dude,
none of it work. Like, it all clashes.
Dude, the Jeep going down the stairs, and I'm like, I know that it's supposed
covering my
to,
eyes.
and I know that it's supposed to be like part of a novel. I mean, I don't think this
is it though? Is it though?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah.
Like, that's the problem with the first half. Like, when you think like. We're slightly spoiling this. But when you think that it is a novel that her character of Ellie has written, it's bombastic and it's extreme and it's absurd, and that, you know, like, okay, that's the reality of the novel. But then when we go out of the novel, the reality is the same as in the novel. You know, Sam Rockwell's doing the same stuff that Henry Cavill's doing.
Yeah, and that's my problem too, because it's like nothing feels based in reality, and you don't really separate those two worlds.
Or not even based, not based in their own realities.
Exactly, you don't separate those two worlds. But yeah, to me, it goes back to what you were saying about those twists. It's like you have one twist, then you have a second one, and then we're getting to the third act, and there's another twist that comes in.
And then the final line of the movie is another twist that's super confusing. I went and read an ending explainer, Brian. I never do that.
Did it explain anything?
No. And then I read the ending explainer for the mid-credit sequence, because it's like, okay, hold on. What is happening? I'm not going to spoil it, but what is happening in the mid-credit sequence? It makes no sense. It does not connect the way that I think they wanted to connect.
Before we get out of this segment, I just want to talk quickly about Matthew Vaughn. Where does he go from? I like him as a director. Where does he go from here?
I mean, I want him to scale back. You know, I want him to be less of this grandiose filmmaker, this blockbuster filmmaker. Stop making Kingsmans and Kick-Asses and Argylles. Abandon ship. Leave that universe behind and go back to like a low budget,
layer cake,
layer cake crime. That's what I would like to see.
What's your rating for this?
I did not like it, Brian. We go B+ if we like something, B- if we did not, and this is a big B- for me.
I agree. This is a B-. I think I will probably never watch this movie again.
If we're lucky.
If we're lucky, it'll be on our streaming services, but I hope it gets buried deep. So those are our thoughts on Argylle. When we return, we're going to take a look at a new animated movie on Netflix, Orion in the Dark. Stay right there.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. Let 211 be your guiding light for help with food, healthcare, and other resources.
211, how can I help you?
Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211, get connected, get help.
Come on, let's go.
Dark, come on! You can't be in the light. You can't be where you're not. You'll disappear.
I'm willing to risk that possibility.
Wait, don't!
I'm really sorry, kid, but day waits for no one.
When Dark is abandoned by everyone and is confronted by Light, Orion tries to convince him otherwise before it's too late. Brian.
Yes.
Charlie Kaufman has written an animated film that's on Netflix.
That sounds exciting.
It does sound exciting. It really does. I was delighted to know that Charlie Kaufman was entering the animated realm, which is one of my favorite realms. Does it work for him? Is this a place you want to see more from Charlie Kaufman?
It's interesting because we look at Charlie Kaufman and his filmography, the things he's directed and written, and I go back to like Being John Malkovich, to Adaptation, to
Synecdoche, New York.
All of those movies.
Eternal Sunshine.
And it feels like the aesthetic and the novelty of those type of movies. You know, I didn't know if it would fit an animated movie, and he doesn't really bring a lot of that style into an animated form. It feels very basic.
The ideas are rather large. Like, I feel like it's a heady movie. But it does feel like Charlie Kaufman watched Inside Out and went, I can do this. I can do Inside Out. And the ultimate result is a lesser Inside Out.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think this movie does touch on some interesting ideas, you know, like with the kid of Orion being in, you know, elementary, middle school, and the idea of being fearful, like everything, he's afraid of everything, and how he kind of tries to break out of that. And his biggest fear is the dark, and how he confronts the dark and befriends the dark. And so for him to face his fear.
But then the movie is also about Orion as an adult, and this is where Charlie Kaufman really comes in.
Yeah.
Orion as an adult, now voiced by Colin Hanks, telling a story to his daughter, and the daughter then being confused by the story that is being told, and then inserts herself into the story.
I found that to be interesting.
It's interesting.
Yeah, because it's like now you're focusing on generational fear, you know, with this family, and also an aspect of storytelling.
Yeah, the power of narrative and how we make sense of the world through the stories that we tell.
Yeah.
There's stuff here that's interesting.
Yeah.
But it's a long movie also, and I feel like we get those ideas and they're wrapped up pretty quickly, and the movie just keeps on going.
Keeps going. Yeah, and then like when we get the little kind of tag at the end, I don't want to spoil that, but it kind of ties back to Orion from his childhood, which is a sweet sentiment that I think they kind of end on a nice tag.
I feel like Charlie Kaufman is ticking Pixar boxes, and he does it. And then what he adds to it that Pixar maybe doesn't is the playing with the format, right? And the layering of the narrative. And I think it's fascinating. I don't think it actually works at the end.
What do you think? You know, I agree. It's weird because I find myself really connecting to that story of fear that Orion is dealing with, and then seeing the structure of that.
And the cold open is really strong.
The cold open is very strong. And then the structure of the narrative with the family and inserting yourself and what that speaks to with narrative and storytelling. I found myself really connected to that, but there is something about it that makes the movie feel kind of, I don't want to say lazy, but just really, even though it has
I would not call it lazy.
But basic.
I would call it basic.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you go, oh, okay. But at the same time, when you're watching the movie and you have like this really excellent cold open, this kid confronting all of these anxieties, and then you're introduced to him as an adult, like there are moments where like just as you're starting to get bored with the movie, Charlie Kaufman does something, go,
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, but after that,
it just goes back. I felt the same thing. What about the voice acting? What did you think of some of that?
I think it's solid. You know, Paul Walter Hauser as Dark is doing his best Seth Rogen.
Yes.
You know, like who doesn't like Angela Bassett as, you know, Sweet Dreams? You know, I think it's good.
I didn't know it was who played Light was Ike Barinholtz. Barinholtz, yeah.
Very
Which
good.
I love him as an actor.
Perfectly cast. And Light is perfectly animated. You know, like that surfer bro type.
Yeah. No, I think all that turned out. I think all that stuff turned out really good.
Yeah, to me, this movie is on the cusp of being a good movie. And it takes us to the edge and then drops me. Like, ultimately, I just went, okay.
Yeah, what's your rating for this?
As a result, I got to go B-. I just don't think it lands.
Even though I said the movie was basic, and I do feel that way, and I feel like, but I like the structure of it, and I like some of the messaging that it has, and I can't disagree with you too much, but I'm gonna go B+.
There's a beauty in the attempt. Right?
Yeah.
Like the swing is attractive.
Yeah, for me in this one, you're right. Yeah, the swing is very attractive. So yeah, I'm gonna go B+. So those are our thoughts on Orion and the Dark. When we come back, it's time to jam with Bob Marley. Stay right there. All right.
Jason, let's go see your room.
You
not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever have, redemption songs.
When you write, Dad?
All my life.
Leading up to his concert for peace in Jamaica, Bob Marley sings Redemption Song by the fire with his family by his side in the latest musical biopic, Bob Marley, One Love. All right, Brad, so we have another musical biopic. Yeah, this one I was really looking forward to. I like the cast, Kingsley Ben-Adir as Bob Marley. We have Lashana Lynch as his wife, Rita. Yeah, great cast. We talk a lot about musical biopics. It's sometimes...
We don't like them. We tend not to like them.
We tend not to like them because there's a certain formula, a certain structure that we get. And it feels like this one is trying to be a little bit different from that structure.
Well, what I like about it is that it does narrow its focus. You know, it's not trying to do like a birth to death biopic. And I was so grateful for that. You know, we're finding a moment in time and we're drilling down and we're really letting Kingsley Ben-Adir become Bob Marley. And he does. He's so good in this film.
You're right, because that was my fear, because I don't like those cradle to the grave biopics. I like when you take a certain section of somebody's life and you focus in on that. So even though as they focus in on like the later half of his life in the late 70s up until his death, it still feels like they want to touch on other parts. And they do it in an interesting way where they have flashbacks, which, you know, is more like memories for him.
Yeah, they're like, at times, they're not even quite flashbacks, they're visions. And I thought that the vision of him in particular as a child running out of the field on fire was very effective. And the way that they kept repeating that metaphor, that vision, until we get to the end and it's concluded. And the way that they conclude that vision, I thought was very powerful.
Yeah, I think the one thing about the movie that has really gotten a lot of criticism is that, you know, it's a movie about Bob Marley, but sometimes we don't really get to know the man, Bob Marley.
Right.
You know, it kind of focuses on I don't even want to say a specific event, because I think even with that, they kind of skirt over it a little bit with the political unrest in Jamaica in the late 70s.
It is a jukebox musical. It's wall-to-wall Bob Marley music, and I think that's truly the star of the film.
Yeah.
But for someone like me who knows almost nothing about Bob Marley besides those songs, I came away from this movie knowing just as little.
It's interesting because I'm a fan of Bob Marley. I like his music, but it's interesting because I don't really know much about the man either. I didn't even really know how he passed away until recently before this movie came out. But I've been a fan of his music for years, and you're right. It's like a jukebox music. It's like a jukebox movie where we hear a lot of the hits, and it's so interesting because you realize how much of an impact Bob Marley has on our culture, and how important of a figure that he is, and how much his music has been a part of our lives.
But then at the end, when we start realizing about all these infidelities that he has been having, like it all comes so quickly, like you didn't even realize what was going on.
Yeah.
Like so much feels missing from this film. And I don't know about your screening, but when my movie started, we had a little introduction by Ziggy Marley.
Yeah, same.
And Ziggy Marley was saying how he was on set every day to make sure that his father's life was represented well.
I was about to bring that up.
And that's why we have the music.
Yeah.
But I feel like that presence is felt to the film's hindrance.
But it goes to a lot of issues that we have with biopics when you have the family or the artist involved in their story, is the fact that sometimes we get a more surface level, I don't want to say watered down, but a more surface level to kind of make everything.
It's a Wikipedia entry, and I feel like that's what One Love is. It's a Wikipedia entry.
And it's unfortunate because it feels like the directors, it's funny because biopics always want to not be a Wikipedia come to life, but they always end up being that.
I mean, a lot of them do. A lot of them do. I watched Lincoln recently, and I think Lincoln avoids that.
Okay.
But this movie does look gorgeous. We've talked about a lot of movies, and we're going to talk about another film this episode, and they all look flat and ugly. The cinematography is terrible. This movie does look like a movie. This feels like film. And I appreciated that element, and I loved the performances, and I loved the music, and I left the film, feeling good about movies, which I can't say about some of the other films that we talked about.
Yeah, you're right, because I left this film the same way. Like, it's funny, I was leaving the theater, and the guy behind me, as we were walking out, he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be playing Bob Marley all week."
Yeah,
and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be doing the same."
Yeah.
And I've been having Bob Marley on rotation since I saw the movie. It brings that love of that genre, that music back to life, and it just makes you just want to revisit a lot of his hits.
And you want to watch every Kingsley Ben-Adir movie you can watch.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. The performance, like, I thought he was great. Lashana Lynch, again, they have great chemistry together. Like, for me, I think this is a good movie that I really like. I don't know. I have a personal connection because I have a lot of friends of mine who are from the islands, and to see that represented on screen, it just kind of reminded me of that time and of that culture as well.
And of that place.
And of that place.
Honestly, though, the movie I really want to watch is the movie about Ziggy Marley on set of this film every day, watching his father's extremely unique life translated into film. Like, don't you want to see that story?
That would be interesting to see.
That's complicated.
That is, yeah, especially with seeing Ziggy in the movie as a child as well. So he has some of those core memories before his father passed away.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting to see. Again, I really enjoyed the movie. I do wish it would have delved deeper into some of, especially the things that were happening in Jamaica at the time.
And into his own personal life. There's a lot of anger there. There's a lot of hurt there. And it's not really explored at all.
No, not at all. What's your rating for this?
I'm on the fence.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to be more generous to this film than I'm going to be with other films. So I'm going to give it a B+. I would recommend it.
Okay.
But on the fence.
Okay. For me, it's a B+. Like I said, I mean, there's some criticisms that I have about the storytelling and with the family being involved and how that kind of keeps it on the surface level. But I can't deny that I left the movie just feeling good about everything that I saw. So yeah, it's a B+ for me. So yeah, those are our thoughts on Bob Marley, One Love. So when we return, we are going to take a look at Madam Web. Stay right there. I know you're waiting for this one.
There's a blood shortage and we came up to Dead Lover's Point at midnight on Friday the 13th.
Lame.
Guess I'm gonna waste all this blood by dying in a predictable horror movie way.
50% of Americans like watching blood get spilled in horror movies, but only 3% donate it. When was the last time you donated blood?
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Get up. Get off. Get off. Get up. Me? Go. Get off. You're gonna die if you stay here. Get up. What? Are you threatening us? Get up. Hey, give me that back.
After a scary premonition, Cassandra Webb attempts to save the lives of 3 young women in the latest Spider-Man rip-off, spin-off, Madam Web. Bryan.
Oh, man.
They keep making these things.
They have to. They want to keep the rights.
I guess so. But should they?
No. I mean, for our sake, no. Not
but even for their sake, right? Like, if you're going to keep on just, pooping out these films, then you're muddying the brand.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was walking out of the theater last night having watched the Bob Marley film, and this couple to my right, they looked at the Madam Web poster and like, what, have you seen that film? And the guy's like, no, I think it's about like Spider-Man's other dimensional sister or something. They've lost it.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows what's going on with these movies.
No, at all. Then they see Marvel, they think it's Marvel Studios. They can't separate.
The actors involved think they're in the MCU.
They
are not.
Don't get me started.
They are not.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. So this movie, man, it doesn't work for me. I mean, spoiler alert, it doesn't work. I think it's what's the word I want to use? It feels like there's no effort in it and I don't want to like bag too much on the actors and the directors, but it just feels like when you're watching this movie, there's literally no effort put into it, put into the performances, put into the direction.
Yeah, sometimes you watch a movie and you go like, boy, this is strenuous. Like they're really trying here. And maybe it doesn't work, but they're trying. And this is the opposite. That's the feeling. I don't know. I wasn't on set. I'm not inside the minds of these creators.
No.
But it is a very soft movie.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately the way I would describe it is it feels like a film that came out in the year that it takes place, 2003. You know, maybe the first Spider-Man is out there. We kind of know what a superhero film is at this point. Let's try. Here's Daredevil, here's Ghost Rider, here's Madam Web.
Here's Elektra, Madam Web. Oh goodness. Yeah, no, but I don't know, man. And then going to the technical side of it, again, S.J. Clarkson, who directed this movie, and I don't know how much of the studio had involved
and at
with
one point, she was going to direct the fourth Star Trek film of the J.J. Abrams universe.
Oh, I do remember hearing about that. Yeah. So I don't know how much involvement she had in this. I don't know if this was like a Gavin Hood situation.
I honestly don't think you can blame any party involved. I don't think you can blame the director. I don't think you can blame the actors. I don't even think you can blame the writers. I think this is just a bankrupt concept from the studio. You know, they're like, Venom did well. Let's not use Spider-Man. Let's do Craven. Let's do Morbius. Let's do Madam Web. You can't do Spider-Man stories without Spider-Man.
Without Spider-Man.
Although Peter Parker does appear briefly in this movie.
Yeah, and it's also very weird because of it. This is another thing that bothers me about these Sony Marvel movies. Because of the deal that they have with Marvel Studios, it feels like for us as fans who are in the know, like we know too much about the behind the scenes goings on between the studios. So it's like they can't use the name Aunt May, you know, when he's talking about he's dating somebody. Like they can't use, and it's just like,
I think, honestly, you could make a good Madam Web movie. I honestly think you can.
Yeah.
They just did it here. You know, like the concept of this person who has premonitions that are haunting them, and then they are able to weaponize those premonitions into giving her the ability to like block missiles and you know, jump over cars and things like that. Like you could, that's an interesting power. You could do something with that. And I actually think S.J. Clarkson directs and stages some of those action scenes pretty well in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then loses the thread.
Yeah, I mean, and then, and like you were saying, I think this is just from the inception of this, it's just all a bad idea. From the editing, from the story, from the script, from the acting.
It just feels like it's being churned out. We got to get it out. We got to get it out.
Yeah, I mean, there's just moments that are just mind-boggling to me that just don't make any sense from a narrative standpoint.
And there is so much ADR in this movie.
The ADR is terrible, especially for the villain, Ezekiel Sims.
Yeah.
I mean, there are moments when you can literally see the ADR happening on screen where it's not syncing up with what he's saying.
Like a Hong Kong movie from the 70s.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's absolutely
laughable.
Terrible. Yeah.
And then you have like these visions of these future Spider Women, you know, like with Sydney Sweeney and the like. And, you know, you get some costume bits, but the costumes look terrible. And then like the logic of why Ezekiel Sims is doing what he's doing, because these people at some point are going to get powers, but then they never get powers in this movie.
Yeah, the motivations behind why he's going after them is very thin, extremely thin. Yeah, this movie just doesn't work on all.
But is it so bad it's good? Like, could this elevate to cult status?
No, I don't think so. The movie is boring. At the end of the day, it's just boring. What's your rating?
It's a huge B-. It's a huge B minus.
You didn't hesitate on that
I
one.
did not.
No, it's a B minus. Yeah, so that's a B minus for both of us for Madam Web. So let's review what we discussed on this episode. So we start with Argylle. We gave that a B minus for both of us. Then we had Orion and the Dark. We split on that. Brad gave that a B minus. I gave that a B plus. Bob Marley, One Love, we gave that a B plus. And then Madam Web, we quickly give that one a B minus. Stay away at all costs.
Dune is coming.
Dune is coming. So thank you for joining us on this latest episode of B&B Movie Reviews. Come be a part of the conversation. If you have questions, suggestions, feel free to email us at bnbmoviereviews@gmail.com. And with that, we will see you at the movies.